Anxiety isn't a symptom, it's a signal. Why do we treat anxiety like a glitch, like something broken that needs fixing? What if it's not a bug, but a signal? Not some mental error to suppress, but a raw, unfiltered wake-up call. Think about it. When your house is on fire, you don't smash the smoke alarm. But that's exactly what we do with anxiety. We numb it, medicate it, drown it in distractions. Why? Because it hurts. Because it demands we pay attention. But here's the truth most people won't say out loud. Anxiety isn't weakness. It's a confrontation with your own freedom. Kierkegaard called it the dizziness of freedom. That queasy, vertigo-like feeling when you stand at the edge of possibility. Not knowing what to do next. It's not dysfunction. It's your soul trying to break through autopilot. Trying to scream over the noise. Ever felt that strange inner pressure, like your life doesn't fit anymore? That's not just stress. It's your deeper self knocking. And it won't go away just because you silence it. You can't outrun something that lives inside you. You have to face it. Let it ask the hard questions. Why are you here? What do you really want? Here's the twist. Anxiety doesn't show up when you're lost. It shows up when you're close. Close to change. Close to truth. It's a compass, not a curse. So the question isn't, how do I get rid of my anxiety? It's, what is it trying to tell me? And that sets the stage for everything that comes next. Why success leaves you empty. You did everything right. You climbed the ladder, hit the goals, checked the boxes. Maybe you built the business, won the awards, got the respect. On paper, it looks like you've made it. So why does it still feel empty? We're sold a myth that once you make it, the anxiety will vanish. That success is the cure. But here's the uncomfortable truth. For a lot of people, more success actually brings more dread. Because when the noise quiets and the crowd stops clapping, you're left alone with yourself. And sometimes, what echoes back is a question you've never really answered. Why am I doing all this? Look at the stories no one wants to talk about. The CEO who built an empire but has panic attacks in silence. The musician who fills stadiums but can't sleep without pills. The politician who's adored in public but hollow in private. These aren't failures. These are people who won the game and realized they were playing the wrong one. That's the trap. We design lives that look good but feel numb. We decorate the cage, confuse validation with meaning, comfort with truth. And then we wonder why, at the peak, it all feels flat. Because achievement without alignment is just performance. Success without soul is just survival in a better suit. You might be chasing goals that were never yours to begin with. Inherited dreams, social scripts, external checklists. But no amount of winning can fill an inner void, especially when the game itself was rigged to keep you distracted from that very void. So maybe the question isn't, how do I succeed? Maybe it's, who told you what success was in the first place? In the next section, we'll dig deeper into that, into the rhythm we've forgotten and the one we need to remember. The history of anxiety was never clinical. Anxiety wasn't always a medical problem. Long before it became something to diagnose and treat with pills, it was seen as a spiritual crisis, a deep, almost sacred discomfort. It meant you were wrestling with reality, with choice, mortality, meaning. And yeah, it hurt, but it also meant something. Kierkegaard called it the dizziness of freedom. That sick, spinning feeling you get when you realize, I can choose anything, and I have no idea what to choose. Not because you're weak, but because you're awake. Because you're standing on the edge of your own becoming. That's not pathology. That's human. Look at Dostoevsky's characters. Raskolnikov in Crime and Punishment. Ivan in The Brothers Karamazov. These weren't anxious because of chemical imbalances. They were anxious because they saw too much. Because they were staring into the moral chaos of a world with no guarantees. They were awake in a world that rewards sleepwalkers. Even in war, World War II soldiers wrote about a strange kind of anxiety that didn't come from fear of death, but from the absurdity of living. Facing senseless destruction, they started asking questions no one could answer. What's the point? Who decides what's right? And now? We've just made the questions quieter. We drown them in content, in scrolling, in daily routines. But the existential pressure hasn't gone away. It's just been rebranded as generalized anxiety disorder. But deep down, you know, it's not just clinical. It's the ache of a soul trying to remember itself in a world that keeps pushing forgetfulness. Anxiety, at its core, is the cost of consciousness. It's what happens when you start waking up in a world designed to keep you asleep. So the next time it hits, don't just ask, how do I make it stop? Ask instead, what part of me is trying to wake up? Kierkegaard's dark gift of freedom. Here's the twist most people miss. Anxiety isn't really about danger. It's not the fear of what might happen. It's the fear of what you might do, that terrifying realization. You are free. Free to choose, to act, to become. And with that freedom comes something heavy, responsibility. Kierkegaard saw this clearly. He didn't define anxiety as some vague unease. He called it the dizziness of freedom, not because freedom is bad, but because it's overwhelming. Standing at the edge of your own possibility, realizing there's no script, no map, no one to blame. Just you and the weight of your choices. That's what makes your chest tighten. That's what keeps you up at night. Think about it. We're not just scared of failure. We're scared of the truth that we are the ones shaping our lives, that nothing external can save us from that fact. So we run, not physically, but psychologically. We avoid, we freeze, we distract ourselves with endless plans and performances. It's easier to obsess over what might go wrong than to ask what we're actually here to do. Psychologists call this avoidance, or paralysis by analysis, or projection, blaming others or circumstances so we don't have to face the mirror. But underneath all of it is the same root, a refusal to own our freedom, because once you do, there's no going back. This is Kierkegaard's dark gift. He doesn't give you comfort. He gives you truth, the kind that stings, the kind that says, your life is yours. And that's why anxiety shows up when you're standing at a crossroads. Not because something's wrong, but because something matters. And deep down you know it's on you. But here's the beauty buried in the discomfort. If anxiety is the signal of your freedom, then leaning into it might be the way back to yourself. So in the next section, we'll ask the question, anxiety is really pointing toward, what does it mean to live a life of your own choosing? What you call anxiety is self-betrayal. What if your anxiety isn't random? What if it's you, your real self, knocking from the inside, begging you to stop betraying who you are? That's a brutal thought. But sit with it. Maybe the tension you feel isn't a disorder. Maybe it's dishonesty, a deep down knowing that you've been living in ways that don't match what you actually believe. That you've said yes when you meant no? That you've kept quiet when something inside you screamed to speak? Kierkegaard called this despair. Not being oneself. It's not sadness. It's not depression. It's something more subtle and more dangerous. It's living a life that looks fine on the outside, while quietly abandoning who you are on the inside. That disconnect creates pressure. And that pressure, that's your anxiety. You don't get anxious when you're aligned. You get anxious when you've made comfort more important than truth. When you twist yourself to fit a role, a job, a relationship, a version of success that was never yours to begin with. When you betray your own inner compass just to keep the peace or to avoid shaking things up. That's why anxiety can feel so personal, so sharp, because it's not just stress, it's a message. And ignoring it doesn't make it go away, it just makes it louder. So yeah, it's a challenge, but it's also a chance. A callback to integrity, to wholeness, to living like you actually mean it. Because the cure for anxiety might not be escape. It might be honesty. And in the next section, we'll explore how facing that truth, no matter how uncomfortable, is the first step toward real freedom. Modern solutions make it worse. Modern life promises solutions for everything. Feeling anxious? There's an app for that. A supplement, a guided meditation, a 5-step productivity hack. Or maybe just scroll for a while, doom scroll, laugh at a meme, chase another dopamine hit. But here's the thing, these aren't answers. They're anesthetics. We've turned anxiety into a brand opportunity. Wellness influencers sell calm like it's a lifestyle aesthetic. Corporations hand out mindfulness sessions between burnout-inducing meetings. Therapists are now framed like life coaches, helping you optimize your mindset so you can perform better under systems that are making you sick in the first place. And we eat it up because we don't want healing, we want relief. Fast, clean, painless. But Kierkegaard warned about this. He called it a sickness unto death. Not literal death, but spiritual death. A life that looks functional on the surface, but is hollow underneath. You smile, you grind, you post your wins, but inside, something's off. You can't name it, but you feel it. We've built a culture that medicates the symptoms of a deeper misalignment, then profits off that discomfort. The mental health industry, at its worst, sells you stability while ignoring soul. It treats your anxiety like a bug in your code, when really, it might be your last connection to something real. And let's be honest, truth is bad for business. If people started listening to their anxiety, really listening, they might quit their jobs, change their relationships, say no to systems that exploit them. And that kind of clarity? It's dangerous. So yeah, the solutions might look modern, but they're ancient distractions. We're not healing, we're hiding. And until we stop running, we'll stay sick. In the next section, we'll talk about what it means to listen to anxiety. Not fix it, not fight it, but face it like a teacher with something sacred to say. You don't need calm, you need courage. Here's the truth no one puts on wellness posters. You don't need calm, you need courage. Anxiety isn't something you manage with breathwork and lavender oil. It's something you meet head on, like a warrior walking into fire, not to burn, but to forge. Kierkegaard had a name for that kind of person, the knight of faith. Not some saint floating above fear, but someone who feels the full weight of anxiety and walks forward anyway, not because they have answers, but because they trust, deep down, that moving through the fear is how you become whole. Think of the leaders and creators who actually shaped the world. Martin Luther King Jr. stood at the edge of death threats, doubt, and moral complexity. He didn't wait to feel ready. He acted, trembling hands and all. Think of artists like Frida Kahlo, who turned pain into power, or even entrepreneurs who risked stability for something more meaningful. They weren't fearless, they were aligned, and that made them brave. Here's the paradox. Anxiety is often strongest right before transformation. It flares up when you're about to step off the old script and do something real. That's why avoiding it keeps you stuck, but facing it, really listening to it, that's where the shift begins. So maybe you stop asking, "How can I calm down?" and start asking, "What is this fear pointing me toward?" Because sometimes anxiety isn't a wall, it's a door, and behind it, a version of you that's more honest, more powerful, and more alive than the one hiding from discomfort. In the next section, we'll talk about what it actually looks like to walk that path, to live as the knight of faith in a world that's constantly selling comfort and certainty. Strategic suffering. Make it work for you. Suffering isn't the enemy. It's the cost of waking up. And if you're willing to suffer strategically, not aimlessly, you can turn anxiety into fuel. This isn't about numbing pain. It's about using it, not for comfort, but for clarity. Start with something simple but radical. Journaling, not to vent, but to confront. Write what you don't want to admit, the lies you've told yourself, the truths you've avoided. Kierkegaard would have loved this kind of inner reckoning. It's raw, it's personal, and it forces you to face the gap between who you are and who you pretend to be. Then, lean into discomfort, on purpose. Take the harder conversation. Make the decision that stretches you. Walk toward the thing that scares you because it scares you. That's where the growth is. You don't become yourself by staying safe. You become yourself by saying yes to the path that costs something. And when the fear spikes, when the anxiety tells you to run, that's where you take the leap of faith. Not in some abstract religious sense, but in the Kierkegaardian sense. A personal act of transformation, a decision to move forward without guarantees. That leap? That's where you stop surviving and start living. Philosophical living isn't soft, it doesn't feel balanced, but it's real, and it's yours. So next time anxiety shows up, don't just soothe it, study it. Listen to what it's demanding. Use it like a compass. Because the most meaningful life isn't the most comfortable one. It's the one you're brave enough to build. You can't escape yourself forever. You can't outrun yourself forever. You can try, scroll, binge, hustle, numb. But no matter how fast you move, your soul keeps pace. And when it knocks, through anxiety, through that restless pressure in your chest, you feel it. That's not dysfunction. That's a sign you're still alive. The more you avoid anxiety, the more you delay your own becoming. And avoidance isn't neutral. It accumulates. Repression charges interest. Every time you sedate instead of confront, you trade short-term relief for long-term numbness. Eventually, you stop feeling anything at all. You're not calm. You're disconnected. Kierkegaard's ultimate claim: anxiety is a sign of potential, a spiritual pulse, proof that your life still matters enough to disturb you, that something inside hasn't given up yet. It's discomfort, yes, but it's also invitation, an opening, a choice. You can keep dodging it, Or you can meet it with courage. Let it show you where you're out of alignment. Let it point to the conversation you're avoiding, the dream you've shelved, the truth you've buried under performance. This is the real pivot. Stop asking how to escape discomfort and start asking what it's trying to teach you. What's the thing anxiety won't let you forget? Because the longer you run, the farther you drift from yourself, and no amount of success, safety, or sedation will ever close that gap. But if you turn around, if you face the discomfort, you might just find that what you feared was never the enemy. It was the beginning. This isn't about healing into perfection. It's about waking up into your life. And anxiety, uncomfortable as it is, might be the one thing still trying to shake you awake. Anxiety is your wake-up call. Maybe anxiety doesn't mean you're broken. Maybe it means you're finally ready. Ready to stop pretending. Ready to break the script. To face the truths you've buried under busyness, performance, and fear. That ache in your chest? That's not failure. That's your soul knocking, saying, hey, this isn't it. Anxiety isn't the enemy. It's the wake-up call. The sign that something inside you refuses to settle, that there's more to you than the role you've been playing. And yeah, it's loud, it's uncomfortable, but it's also sacred, because it means the part of you that wants truth is still alive. So don't kill the signal, don't numb it. Answer it, let it lead you to the harder questions, the real choices. The version of yourself that doesn't just cope, but creates. You don't need to be fixed. You need to listen. Anxiety doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means something real is trying to be born through you. So take the call. And this time, don't hang up.